your flesh and blood.
Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, a new paradigm for a new world. And I'm Richard Dugan, Reverend Dr. D. We're here with Lumari of Lumari.com. And we're here every Wednesday at 9 o'clock to talk about all kinds of cool things. And today, Lumari, we're going to talk about intention. We'll get into that. But first, welcome to this beautiful Wednesday. It's the week before the Day of Thanks for some. I know some people are giving it different names, and we can recognize that as well. But thank you for being with us.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here with you, Richard, and happy to be with this beautiful community of people who are participating and opening up to new ways of being in our world to uplift and bring more smiles and high vibes.
Well, I will tell you that that's the intent, of course, of this program and of my life. And it's interesting how we say things, we do things with an intention. Let's talk about what that is, because people hear it all the time. You know, you need to have an intention in order to make your dreams come true, in order to meet a goal, in order to do this, that, or the other thing. What, from your perspective, what is an intention?
Well, that's a great question because there's lots of different ways of looking at intention. But let's start off with a clarity of what you are doing, what you would like to create, and how you would like to see it evolve. So, what you would create, it's like I'm going to use something very simple, right? We want to create a fabulous energy for people to just be able to be themselves in a highway. Not on the highway, but in a highway.
Right.
And to be able to, to be able to do that, like the first thing you want to do is know what you want to create. So, and that's part of our conversation anyway, is creating the space for people to explore, to understand, to move into a higher frequency, higher way of being. So we can use that as an example of what part one of the intention is. That's being clear about it. Part two is a focus. Now you're really bringing your energy into it. So now you're looking at it and your conversations and what you do and what you say and how you feel. Now they're focused on that higher energy that you're bringing. Part three, which is looser. I'm going to say it's looser. Some people think it is the end result. But that would be creating it and creating the result you want. Now, I'm going to be loose about that because it's a little bit rigid. I would just say rigid. Meaning, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to share, and this is how it's going to look. This is the result. The intention for the result, or what's going to happen, needs to be focused in that same thing. We're talking about bringing high vibrations. So we're focused on bringing those high vibrations into our lives, into other people's lives, so that they can share the higher vibrations and into the world. And some people have a conversation of what it looks like. I have a bigger conversation on how it vibrates and resonates. So some intentions are much more goal-oriented, and some intentions are much more energy-oriented. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, uh-huh. And it's something that
So,
we do need to take a look at in that regard because the you know you use the word focus, okay,
mhm.
and um a lot of folks, they a lot of people right now aren't. I mean, they think they're focused, but
Right.
right now I think that a lot of people, their attentions are scattered.
Yes. Yes. And with your intention and your attention, you really do need that focus it's kind of fun because you know that I have a sense of humor about the highest spiritual things. I still have a sense of humor about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, so when you recognize you're getting distracted, you want to go, oh, yep, got distracted. Okay. You want to be able to do that with humor. So we're listening to one thing, and then all of a sudden, angry voices happen, and you get distracted from the beauty you're trying to create. So you want to go, oh, yeah, I just got distracted. Nope, back over here. In a nice, pleasant way, not like rigid, bad teacher way.
Right. Yeah.
Pay attention now, right? But like to be able to do that for yourself, it's also a very clear training because there's so many things happening and so many vibrations. It's not just news and conversations and opinions and opportunities and all of those different things in the world. I mean, you can be distracted by the weather.
Right.
It is being able to recognize that was a distraction and bring yourself back without a judgment, like, oh, bad person, you got distracted. No, like, oh, yeah, distracted, and come back. Every once in a while, the distraction is a good thing. Most of the time, it's really a distraction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things that I find interesting when talking about intention
Mm-hmm.
is some people will use this phrase, I didn't intend to do that. And yet,
Mm.
if you look at it, well, apparently you did because you did it or you said it. Okay.
Yeah.
So to say I didn't intend, okay, let's clarify that. You didn't consciously intend to do that or say that.
Right.
And that's
Well,
where,
that's really beautiful.
yeah, that's where the distraction comes in. That's where the lack of focus
And,
comes into the picture.
yeah, and a lack of awareness because so some of us, right, because everybody creates things intentionally, unintentionally, and we all create something with intention too. You can see those things in your life. You have examples of, I want to do this. I really focused on it. I did everything that I could possibly do, and it either happened exactly the way I wanted it to, or it happened in another way that was even better. Whatever those things are. And then there's other things where don't recognize that we weren't focusing on it. And sometimes, which is really important to understand, we don't have the skill. We weren't trained to do that. We're not aware of those subtleties that they take training. It's not just you can read 2 chapters in a book and know how to do it. It's practice over your lifetime. If we look at different areas, right? I mean, sports people, because it's an easy one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sports people intend to win.
Yeah.
It's not just, and then each player intends to have their best game. And then each player intends to do the best they can. So there's all these different levels, right? But they're trained and they have trained themselves to have that kind of focus. Because if you're playing whatever game you're playing and you go, oh, wow, there's a rocket in the sky. Okay, you just missed the ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whichever kind of ball you're playing with.
Right. Well, I mean, there's a case in point in the World Series, Game 5, New York versus Los Angeles. And New York, Los Angeles was up to bat. And I'm not going to give the names because it's not really relevant. Batter hits the ball. He hits it out just past second base into the outfield. The outfielder, just before the ball enters his mitt, he glances over at second base to the runner. And what happens? He missed
Yep.
the ball. And that
Yep.
then cascaded into a series of other errors that ended up costing the Yankees the World Series. And there is a prime example of a lack of attention in spite
Yeah.
of the intention, of course, to win that game and then hopefully go on to win the World Series for the Yankees. And this guy, hey, he made a mistake. And then there's always next year, as they say. But that's a prime
Oh, yeah.
example of someone who didn't focus.
Yeah, it's really important because to know that we are going to do that. Okay, we're going to do that. We know that. When you are paying more attention, when you're in a way training yourself to pay attention to those things, it's a whole other thing. Because then your intention, what you would like to happen, and then the actions you're taking to create that, and then the result, I don't like the word result, but in the result that is going to happen because of your intention, or you want to create to happen because of your intention, they start to line up because you're paying attention to your intention. And really, in our lives, it's much there's much more of that in our lives than people think.
Yeah.
And it's not just, and that's why, like, result and goal and things like that, it's just not words I vibe with, but they're words that can describe what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because sometimes goal seems so focus-oriented, result-oriented, that the journey doesn't seem as important as the end result. And I think the journey is as important. So having the intention to have the whole thing flourish, that's what we really want to do and what we want to share. And this is why you've created this show. So that everybody can be uplifted and move into a different energy and see the world in new ways and have new tools to use and new expressions to use. And it's not like there's just one goal. I'm going to do this and boom, I got it. It's a whole bigger vision.
Yeah, it is. And the fact is that there are times when I take a look at what we have accomplished over the last 17 plus years. I don't actually see, other than the number of interviews that I've done, I don't actually see anything being accomplished. And when I say that, I'm not saying nothing has been accomplished. I just don't see it. Okay? It's out of my vision. It's out of my peripheral vision. Okay? It's outside of my vision, I should say. But there are others who do. They are aware of stuff that's happening. Just because I don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. It's like I say about the numbers. And this, now someone could say, well, yeah, but look at the numbers. Your numbers are way up and this and that and the other. Well, okay, that's great. But that's not my focus. Now, maybe that's the indicator that I should look at, that's saying, look, there's different people are listening. A lot of them. Okay. I'm willing to accept that too. But
yeah, it's a different energy though.
Yes, that's it right there. That's it right there. That's my focal point, is focusing on the energy. And when we do that, we have the intention, and I'm going to throw another word in here into the mix to talk about, and that would be with intention without expectation. And what I mean by that is you put out the intention. I've said this a few times on this program in the last few months, that from a financial standpoint, yes, I am content and I want more, and I want to start with $100,000. I have no idea how that's going to manifest, but I believe it will, but I'm letting the universe decide how it will manifest.
Right. Which is a good deal.
Yeah.
Because if you tell the universe you know better than the universe, you're not getting anywhere.
Not gonna make it. Not gonna get there.
Step aside, universe. I know better.
That's exactly. Oh man, I'll tell you. Hey, wait a minute. That's not my plan. That has nothing to do with my plan. And then, of course,
Right.
the universe pushes and pushes, and I go, all right, all
Oh
right. And then you
yeah.
go, oh, your plan was better.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, with all of this, the one thing that's really kind of in a way gives everybody a break
Hmm.
is that you may have intention, you may be able to focus on it because we think that that is good, and then there's all of these different things that come into play. Part of it is you don't want to be distracted. The other part is you do want to notice what's happening because sometimes that distraction actually is a message,
Hmm.
and sometimes really a distraction. It's
Oh yeah.
like it's that way. And so there's a lot of conversations that talk about intention, and they talk about it like it's so simple and it's so easy. And it's one of the things that, with me personally, um, on the one hand, I do know that clarity is an easy place to be, but that doesn't mean that being clear is easy.
Ah,
Life is complicated, and when you move into different things, you can go, oh, right, I don't need that. Oh, right, I don't need that. Oh, wait a minute. Even though I wasn't really sure that was going to pop up, I think I need to pay attention to that one.
yeah.
Even though it wasn't on the journey I thought I was on, that's really important to notice. So that we're in a level of awareness that while we have our intention, we're not wearing, like you talked about the other time, last time, like those horse things on the
Hmm.
side of your head.
The blinders, yeah.
Thank you. It's like, no, that's not what we're talking about. You want a huge awareness with the intention of what you want to be able to notice where you have decided at this moment you want to travel, but being completely aware of other things. I never would have met my husband if I wasn't open to having conversations when I was at an art opening with somebody else.
Hmm. Exactly.
We wouldn't have met. I would have been so focused on, like that's not it either. And the reason part of this is actually exciting for me is because there are conversations that are very specific about intention. Have an intention, you follow it, you do whatever it is, no distractions, blah 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 blah, and it feels really rigid and not fun
Hmm.
to me.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
be joyfully in my journey, and stuff is going to happen. We all know that. We're all old enough to know stuff happens, and not all of the stuff is fun.
Absolutely. That's true. That's true. But if our intention is clear, and that's where we want to kind of go to now in making sure that our intention is clear,
Yeah.
the universe then makes a way. And the best example I can think of at the moment is when we moved here to Santa Barbara and the whole process that took place starting with March 1st of 2006. And
Mm.
the initial conversation with my wife having to do with her concern over our being on the edge of and she used the word precipice or cliff, if you will. What do we do? What are we going to do? Neither of us has a job, and da 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 da. And again, I came to the conclusion that, well, when you come to a cliff, metaphorically speaking, mind you, um, you jump and you trust.
Yeah.
And when we did that, even though we did not know at that moment, what our intention was, the
Mm-hmm.
conversation continued on over the next day or so. Okay, so if we're going to jump and trust, what are we going to do? Do we stay
Right.
here or do we move?
Yeah.
And obviously, if we stay here, we get a job. We get jobs. If we
Mm-hmm.
move,
Mm-hmm.
where are we going to move to? We got to decide
Mm-hmm.
where are we going to move to. Ireland, I would have loved to have moved to Ireland, or in this case, we chose Santa Barbara as her hometown. And we
Mm,
weighed the pros and the cons and decided, no, Santa Barbara, I think, is a better choice. That became our
mm,
intention to move to Santa Barbara. So we took a little trip
interesting.
for a week. Then we came back, but the house on up for sale. Got it all set up, packed, got everything shipped. In May, jumped in the car, came to Santa Barbara. Boom. We stayed focused on our intention, and it was the same with the experience I had in 1993 with my first wife buying a house. The
Mm,
intention, as I describe in my book Choices, 5 Steps for Life, was we are buying a house. We're not working with the broker or the appraiser or the insurance company or whoever else is involved in the process. Our
mm,
intention is we're buying a house. And within 30
cool.
days, unheard of, even back then, unheard of, we
Right.
bought in 30 days. We closed in 30 days.
Wow.
That's what staying focused on one's intention can do. It can make things
Yeah.
happen. But then you have to go back to the other word that I threw in there, expectation. If it took 30 days or 300 days, we probably would have
Right.
continued in the process because that's what our intention was. And
Well,
we
I
got out
love
of the
that.
way. I'm sorry?
I love that because you
Yeah.
also were, because the other part of what we're talking about with the intention is being open to how the universe is going to show up there. So I have a crazy story about moving to Santa Fe because
Mm-hmm.
I never planned to, right? My husband and I decided that, you know what? We need a break from Boston. Just, we love it here. We need a break. We went to visit a friend in Boulder, and I was thinking that I might move there. We're looking around and we love it. And there's a snowstorm of 3.5 feet. So we look at it and we go, you know what? I don't think I can deal with this. Let's go visit our friend in Santa Fe. Called her up, drove down, got out of there just in time, right?
Mm.
Landed in Santa Fe, went to their house, had a wonderful dinner. The next night it snowed 3 feet in Santa Fe. They don't have the same kind of, or they didn't back then, of plowing and stuff like that, because that's like, once in 100 years. We couldn't leave. They didn't plow the roads. And my blessed friend, like, set us up in her house because we couldn't even get to a hotel. I'm telling you the roads because she lived in, not close to the city, right?
Mm-hmm.
We, we couldn't drive to a hotel. Even in a four-wheel drive, we couldn't drive to a hotel.
Yeah.
So we stayed in their house for weeks until they finally got everything together. I mean, the whole city and county was closed, unless you were really downtown,
Yeah.
which that's where they plowed. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting there going, all right, universe, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what is going on. This is not what I intended. I don't even know what this place is. And as soon as we got able to leave her house and get into a hotel, right, we said, well, we need to move here because the universe isn't letting us out. Because even though that we could leave her, it had still snowed again north, which was where we were going to go, right? We still couldn't get out. So I just went to the universe. I said, all right, darling, tell you what, you want me to live here. I'm going to look for a rental house. You have until, and this is me, right? The humorous part of me. Have until Friday. If we don't find a rental house by Friday, we are driving back up to Colorado. And if we drive off the road and kill ourselves, it's on you.
I like that ultimatum.
Right? I know. We went, got connected with a real estate agent. She brought us to this house. I looked at it and I said, well, I don't know. And a raven landed in the tree, the pinon tree next to us. And it went, bark, bark, bark. And I looked at it. It flew around the house 3 times, went back to the pinon tree, went, bark, 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 looked at me, flew away. And I said to the real estate agent, okay, we'll take it. The universe was like, how many times can the universe show me a sign?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
I knew
yeah.
I wanted to leave the Boston area. I needed the change. I love the area. I love the cosmopolitan thing. I just needed, space. And here I am in Santa Fe. Because the universe said, okay, you want some space, you want open air, you want something still creative and cosmopolitan, but you don't want big city. All right. Now, the universe didn't say, by the way, we're going to send you to Santa Fe, make a list, blah, 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 right? That
Mm-hmm.
didn't happen. But even when I doubted it, I spoke to a friend back home and I said, okay, we're going to move here. We're going to drive back and pack my place. And she said, no, I'll pack it. I'll pack it. I'll rent the truck. Just stay there. And she did.
Mm.
She packed my whole place, put it in a truck, and sent it to me, so I wouldn't have to do the whole thing. I said, you found your place. That's the intention was to find a place. The universe showed up, and I paid attention to what the universe was telling me, even though I really thought the universe was totally crazy.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about the universe. It doesn't care what we think of it. It
Absolutely
it
not.
does not care. It's going to do what it's going to do for us. For us, if
Yep.
we will but allow it to do its thing, and I say it, it's kind of strange to
Right.
put that kind of obscurity on it, but be that as it may. Um,
It's easier than the other words.
it is easier than the other words, but it's
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things too that that really it kind of goes to listening to the still small voice we talk about quite often, and that
Yeah.
is that we can do so much better by listening, and that's
Yeah.
the reason why the old saying is, and that's the reason why we have two ears and only one mouth. We don't have two mouths and one ear.
Oh gosh, that would be horrible. Oh my gosh.
I think it would be. I can't even
Yeah.
imagine. Although I've heard the old saying about so and so is talking out of both sides of their mouth. But
Yeah.
that's a whole nother thing. But it's
No, see,
really
that's really beautiful.
yeah,
You're saying.
yeah. It's extraordinary when we listen. It really
Yeah.
is. The things that we hear, the impressions that we get. I get a lot of impressions, not so
Yeah.
much, the spoken word per se, as much as,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I personally think telepathy is we get images or impressions from others
Sure.
or from the universe. And, and again, we go back to, hey, we're all doing just the best that we can with what we've got, with what we know, and we can know more. But the only way for us to know more is to listen. And,
Well, it's so important when we talk about that because, and there are many different levels of listening also. So
ooh,
obviously you have to be quiet within to listen. And I will say this because if there's really an important message and you haven't listened, the universe is going to yell at you. And
oh
you
yeah,
don't want that. You don't want that. The reason that you don't want that is because when the universe kind of yells, or like I like to say, bonks you on the head,
uh-huh.
those are really loud messages because you didn't listen before.
Yeah,
The universe was speaking to you, sharing things for you, and you didn't listen. You didn't pay attention. So part one of this is listening to it, but the other part, and also in alignment with the intention, is to align that so that you can actually hear it, so that you
mm-hmm.
take actions there. Because that's another part of what we're talking about. And I love for you when you were saying you get impressions, get feelings and sensations.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, as a psychic and a channel, I get a whole bunch of different things going on. So I will have physical sensations. I will see things, not vision like people walking or anything like that, but
Right.
I'll have light flashes or energy distractions or ripples that tell me I need to pay attention. I'll have very physical things where I'll get a rush of energy or I'll get something quiet or I'll get a sensation, right? And then I hear things. And I hear things in different ways. So sometimes I'll hear like a specific message that's short, and sometimes I'll hear a lot. I mean, I write my books because I ask a question and the universe gives me 45 pages worth of answer to just that one question. And also with my clients as well, when I'm working with my clients, coaching, psychic work, healing work, et cetera, right? They have an intention for their life. And then we create the vibrational alignment of their soul. And then we create an even bigger vision so that it doesn't feel so goal oriented. And when we're working or we're asking questions or anything, I listen in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And sometimes the client, it's going to be a very specific answer. And sometimes it's going to be much more vibrational. I'm going to say, okay, listen, let's move here. Let's look at this. Let's shift this. You know, when I'm still listening, but I'm not. It's not like this is what you need to do. This is our next plan. And again, it's not me being this is what you need to do because Lumari says, right? It's
Right.
in alignment with who they are.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's the energy that needs a shift, and we work on that as well. And it's all within the realm of their bigger vision and the intention. And we can all do that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Uh, I've been talking about this for the last couple of days since I started to reread this book that goes back to the mid 1980s. You might even be familiar with it. I've actually found another person who is familiar with and has read the book. A matter of fact, an interview that I did, two gentlemen were familiar with this particular book. I was sort of shocked, but on the back of the cassette package, because that's what it came to me as back in the mid 80s. On the back of the cassette package, it says over 500,000 copies of the book have been sold. And it's like, okay, well,
Wow, that's a lot from the 80s.
oh yeah, and this was a dramatized audiobook. That's what we call them audibles now, but
Ooh.
it's called The Goal, a process of ongoing improvement.
Wow, I've never heard of that one, but that sounds awesome.
It's written by the last name of the author, who has unfortunately since passed on. I would love to have him on the program.
Yeah.
Goldrat, Goldrat.
Ooh,
But he
interesting name.
talks throughout this book, this dramatization. I think there's a constant reference to intention. It is surrounding a manufacturing plant as part of a series of plants in a corporation that's supposed to get raw materials in and put out a product for the client. And they're having all kinds of problems. And of course, this one guy was hired 6 months ago to run the plant, and so forth. And now he's given an ultimatum by the head of the plants in that region. You got 3 months to fix this problem. And it's like
Wow.
3 months, and he's basically inherited all of this. So now he's got to
Wow.
find out, okay, the first question that's asked by his mentor, who is his old physics teacher, is, what
Mm.
is the goal? What's the
Wow.
goal? And in this case, when we're talking, we can transpose the word goal. What's your intention? I mean, yes, you have a
Yeah.
goal, but what's your intention? What is it that you want to accomplish?
Right.
And he goes through all the machinations of what to do and getting guidance from his mentor and everything. But the mentor will not give him the answers.
Yeah.
And that's intentional because
And
the
powerful.
yeah, because the mentor wants him to come up with the answers. It's going to be more meaningful. And I hear that all the time when somebody comes up, say, to a supervisor, I could give you the answer. I will help you to find the answer, but I won't give it to you because if you find it, guess what? You're going to remember it more than if I just tell you, if I just give you the answer.
Mm.
And
Mm.
that's the way it is in life. We get answers or we get guidance towards
Oh
the
yeah.
answers from the universe. The universe will send people and experiences into our path
Absolutely.
to give us those answers. And then we take
Absolutely.
and then we take those answers and of course more questions come, but that's okay because that's part of the process. That's a beautiful part of the process. It's really kind
Well,
of
and the
cool.
thing it is, and the thing that's also really exciting, at least for me, that's really exciting, is being able to listen and recognize that you're listening. Because again, psychic, intuitive, channel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all those words, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm continually in conversation with the universe. Sometimes it's messages for me. Sometimes it's messages from my clients.
Mm.
Sometimes it's messages for the world that I'm supposed to bring out, or I'm just supposed to know. I don't
Mm.
actually have to do anything with it. I'm just being, gifted conversations or wisdom or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
When we're in that place of listening, and you have to have the intention of listening to things for your betterment.
Here, here.
Okay?
Here, here.
Plenty of
Yeah.
stuff out there that is just going to be annoying. You're not listening to that. You're listening to stuff that's for your betterment. So that when you create that intention before any of the other intentions, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you create that intention, it's like, oh, now when you receive guidance, inner guidance, spiritual guidance, guidance from someone like me who's a coach and an intuitive, guidance from other people in the world, stuff that you find, thoughts on your own, and you can look, this is for my betterment.
Yeah.
You're going to get a feeling if it isn't. If you're listening to old stories from when you were 8 years old and people were doing stuff,
Mm-hmm.
that's not for your betterment. It's
Yeah.
just old nagging conversations that, who cares?
Yeah. Well, and even in this particular story that I'm reading, there is a point at which the intention was to improve the productivity of the plant. And within
Right,
2 months, they have done it. But obviously, it's not over, but they've actually turned things around. They don't have inventory lying all over the warehouse floor,
right,
manufacturing floor. It's been shipped. And now they have no more back orders and they're able to take on massive projects and they figure out how to do that. However, what happens is they have this quarterly plant meeting
mm,
with the
mm,
corporate accountants and so forth. And
right,
they're sitting down around the conference table, and the accountants are really upset. They're upset because the plant did not use the standard protocol for accounting in terms of what they accomplished. They only did it for the 2 months of the improvement, right? They only did it for the
right,
2 months of the
right,
improvement, not for the 6 months that they were supposed to do it for. And the difference
right,
between those two calculations simply is that the cost of the materials was higher doing it for 6 months than just doing it for the 2 months that they had made the improvements. And so,
right.
and Alex is the main character. He is basically telling the accountants that just because these are the calculations that we've been using for God knows how long doesn't mean that
Mm-hmm.
they still work because
Well, see, and
things have
that is
changed.
beautiful.
Yeah. And
That's
that's
beautiful
what,
because the other part
yeah,
is the evolution of your being.
exactly. Exactly. So we have to be willing to take on, you talk about listening and getting that information, and maybe you're not supposed to do anything with it other than take it in, and it'll be there ready
Yeah.
to be used down the road. But it may not necessarily be contrary to the way things are being done. It's just
Mhm.
different. And it probably makes more sense. So,
Well, and that's really beautiful because um, the plan, everything, just in case people don't recognize this, again, because intention, like I said before, there's some things that people say that are so rigid, and I can't play there. I just,
yeah,
my whole energy just doesn't, not that I won't follow rules, but when it's rigid, like you can only do this, then I don't play there.
yeah,
You want to be able to listen and follow guidance. When you have things set up, sometimes they need to change.
yeah,
You may not know that it needs to change, and sometimes you need to look at it and go, oh, the conversation about change is actually distracting me from the intention that I really have.
yeah,
You can play in both places
exactly.
when you're listening.
Yeah. What's interesting is the willingness to consider other ways of doing things, contrary maybe to the way they've always been done. The example in this particular book is all of a sudden, after all of this great productivity, they get a call from a customer who wants 1,000 Model 12s. We'll
Oh,
just say that Model 12.
whoa,
And they're
whoa.
going, that could be over $1 million sale, right? Okay. Could we do it? Well, I don't know. That's an awful lot. Well, the long and the short of it is they finally end up negotiating with the customer. Okay, instead of 1,000 units by the end of the month, we will ship you 250 units every week for the next 4 weeks following
Mm,
2
right.
weeks of getting all of the materials together.
Cool.
So they don't have
Smart.
there's no pressure. There's no pressure. And it's a
Smart.
different way of doing things. And yet corporate, they just about go through the roof as
Yeah.
far as the accountants. However, what ends up happening thus far in the book as I've gotten is what ends up happening is Alex gets a promotion after 8 months with
Wow.
the improvements to this plant to division plant manager. Not just a single
Mm,
plant. Now he's going to be over 3 plants because of the changes that he has made. So now he's going to be able to implement that into the other plants, make this company more productive, bring in more money, which is the goal to make money. That's what the determining factor was in this. And that's thinking outside the box. Oh no, we can't handle 1,000, so we won't take
well,
the
you see,
contract.
yeah, and that's creative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's fascinating to me, and blessings to you. Well, it's fascinating to me how you've heard the story of Grandma at Thanksgiving, and they have ham, not turkey, at Thanksgiving time, right?
Right.
And the kids are watching, and Grandma pulls out this pan, and she puts the ham over on the board, and she cuts off the ends, and she puts the ham in the pan, and puts the pan in the oven. And the oven's going, and away they go, and they're just kind of perplexed. And Grandma, why do you do that? Because we've been here a couple of Thanksgivings ago, and you do the same thing every year. Well, why? I don't understand why you cut the ends off and then and so forth. And she says, well, it's because that's the way we've always done it, because that's the only way that the ham will fit in the pan. So rather than get
Yeah.
a bigger pan, she cuts the ends off. Well, gee, maybe next year we'll get Grandma a bigger pan so she doesn't have to cut the ends off. I mean,
Well,
it seems
and
simplistic, but that's the truth.
no, but the thing is, like when we're talking about intention
Mm-hmm.
and we're talking about creating, like for me, I work with my clients to create a bigger vision.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter what's going there, it encompasses more of their own soul calling and also where they really want to play in the world, right? And
Mm.
you want to be creative, and you, like you said, you want to look outside the box.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you a very funny story about me. Okay. I'm in high school, right? And there's basketball, not professional basketball, right? Just basketball. I'm already on the gymnastics, etc. And I just have this fantasy I want to play basketball. Understand, I am under 5 feet tall. So I'm not going to be anybody's pick for basketball. Right? Everybody's laughing at me. Everybody's laughing at me. And I just sit there and go, I just want to, because I love basketball and Boston Celtics, yay, etc. Lakers are good too. It's like, so I convince my teacher to let me play one game with the group. And if I didn't make any shots, I wouldn't play again, but I would be able to say I played basketball, which in my mind was the most humorous thing I could possibly do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm playing with people who are like 5'10", et cetera, et cetera. And I was faster. I was short. And because they didn't see me, because they were looking up and I'm down, right? So I whipped around people and I blocked them and I stood up and I jumped in front of them. I made a couple of shots. I wasn't like the best, but I could whip around everybody and I played the game. I did get one shot, but also the thing is I was so quick running around both my own team and the other team. And like, I was like this little whip thing that went around. Like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't play after, I played every once in a while, right? But it was like my brain had a different view of what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing was, see, everybody was focused on the basket. So they weren't focused about the little woman who was running around their feet.
Yeah.
Blocking them and jumping up in front of them and blocking the ball because they didn't see me.
I love it.
Right?
That's great.
And so the reason I'm using that, first of all, because it's hilarious. And I don't even know, really, like now as an adult, like, really? You actually wanted to do that? But it's the inspiration to be, okay, if I could do stuff like that, any vision you have, any idea, you can find a way to play.
Yeah.
You can create the energy and have the intention, which is what we're talking about. You can have the intention to really go, okay, you know what? I want to do this. And it doesn't have to be the intention for your whole life.
Yeah.
It can be the intention for this, this space and time. It can be the intention for something that you want for yourself. And if you have an intention for your family, then you always want to ask the universe, is this in line with my family when I have this intention? Because you don't want to force your intention on people. And you can actually play.
Yeah.
Seriously, if I could play basketball, I mean, crazy. Seriously crazy.
Yeah. It's
Seriously.
yeah. Well, it also is an example too. I myself was born legally blind, and so I wasn't able to drive until I turned 36. But I was able to do a lot of other things. And
Yes.
I as much as I love baseball, right? And I do.
Mm-hmm.
I love baseball.
Cool.
I hated playing baseball. Oh my, because I'm sure you know where I'm going with this,
Yeah.
because I'm out in the outfield and they put me out in the outfield, which thankfully they did that. I didn't want to play first, second, or third base or shortstop,
Right.
let alone pitch.
Right.
My God, I would have had more hit batters than you can shake a stick at. And so I'm out there in the outfield, and I still remember this was right before graduation. And so they were growing the grass very tall in the area where we were going to be graduating so that they'd mow it down beforehand so it'd look really, really nice. Where do you think the ball went? Into that tall grass. And I'm searching everywhere. But I was still out there playing. I could play basketball, and that was fine. But I got really good at track and field. I mean, that was my strong suit when I was in school.
Ah,
Yeah, I learned how to run. Um, so it's really a question. And of course,
yeah.
when I talk to people about this kind of stuff, I talk about what I refer to as perceived limitations. I don't want to
Exactly.
say that, your limitation was your height per se, but the reality is that you had a height differential.
Oh
Okay.
yes. Well, in sports, I mean, in sports, like uh, gymnastics, gymnastics. If you're not tall, it's a good thing. That's just how it works. If you look at all the people in women's gymnastics, you're not 5'8". They're petite. Now, because of how I thought, right? I'm like, I don't care. I don't want to be the star. I just want to play. I did the same thing with track. Those women who were in basketball could run like crazy.
Yeah.
I had to step, of course, because my father was a drummer and I have a rhythm in my brain, right?
Yeah.
For every step they made, I knew I had to do three,
Huh.
right? So they got the
Yeah.
long legs and they're going like this, and they go one, and I go 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, and I knew if I came in third, I still won. No, not long distance. I couldn't keep that up a long distance, but
Right.
my goal was to come in third. There was no way I was going to beat them. I'm in third. I still won, and I really had to run fast. To beat them, really had to run. That was like crazy, and I had like the drum beat in my head. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? But like when we play like that, like you're declared legally blind and you're playing sports,
Yeah.
and a baseball is small and fast.
I could have got
It's
a,
not,
I could have gotten a bigger mitt, but
but the thing is, like, because we're sharing these wonderful, stories about competition and being the one that they didn't expect to play, right? Because of whatever it was. But that's okay. Because having the intention you don't need to have the intention. And this is the other thing that is out there in the world that I'm going to say you don't have to worry about. You
yeah.
don't need to say, I need to be the best. I'm going to lead the da 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 da. It's the fulfillment of your soul and your joy. That's your intention.
Yeah. I tell you, this has been a fascinating conversation, which unfortunately we have to bring to a close. But the
Oh,
intention was to talk about intention, and boy, did we. And I thank you so much for being with us. And we look forward to being here again next Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, for another
yes.
conversation with Lumari. Thank you for being with us.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And our intention today is for you to have something fabulous show up in your life.
And we hope that it does. And our intent is that it will. And with that, we thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, video cast, love to lol. Jeanette, I am still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I will see you on the other side. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.